Welcome to the 7th season of Quilt at the Long Arm Quilting Show. I'm Jody Davis, your host. You know, long arm quilting machines have many wonderful attributes, but one is that you can just keep on stitching. You've got all the space to work on. But as long armers, we do find that we stop and start a lot. My guest today is Deborah Poole, who's going to show us how to cure all that stopping and starting. Welcome to the show, Deborah.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So tell me about where you came up with this idea, and you've written a whole book about it.
Yes, I have. When I first started long arming, I had that question in my mind: do you stop and start a lot, or can you just go with the flow? And it seemed like I was stopping more than I wanted to and having to tie off, and then that creates a lot of issues as well. So you get bird's nests on the back a lot of times when you start and stop and stuff. So I wanted to try and find a way of finding the path so that we could not stop and start so often.
Ah, very good. It also interrupts the flow. Whenever you're in the flow of something, when you stop, it's hard to get back.
Yeah, it is. And so you kind of get in the groove, and then when you have to stop, it is a bother to have to try to change over.
Okay, so we're going to reduce our stops and starts.
Yes, we will.
Good.
When I was in grade school, a teacher asked us to draw a house. And she said to draw this house without picking up your pencil and without crossing a line. You know, as you can see, it doesn't seem like wherever you start, you end up, oh, look at there.
How'd you do that?
But see, I crossed the line. So even though we could do it without crossing the line.
We're repeating a line.
Right, there. So in order to not cross a line, you need to kind of think outside of the box.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that.
And so that's kind of the idea of getting things continuous.
Yeah.
Let's pull that paper out.
So with this, we're eliminating stopping and starting and going over a
And
line again.
crossing over lines.
You know, you do get good eventually going over a line again, but in the beginning, it's just
Right,
something else that you can mess up.
The backtracking is somewhat hard. On this, for continuous lines, we call these continuous curves.
Yep.
And to make this block continuous is really pretty easy. You start on the outside, and then you just weave your way back and forth across.
Okay, and it's going to come.
Yeah.
I know no matter where you start, you're going to be
on
okay.
this one, pretty much, no matter where you start, you're going to be able to keep it all continuous. And once you get all the way across and do those, then you just come on the outside.
Up to the beginning.
Yep.
By the way, this paper is a Handy Quilter preview paper.
Yes.
Which is fun stuff to work with, because you can practice this just by drawing, which is really good for you.
And then we've got a more difficult block over here that we will move to.
Okay. Okay.
On this one, I'm going to actually quilt it. In this one, people want to look at the block, and they'll get confused and want to try to keep everything in grids. But when you look at this block, you need to look at the color that's here. And it's best when you're going to keep things continuous is to move things on the outside and then do your continuous, but everything works to the outside. And then you move to your total outside and close it off.
Okay.
So I'll just try to stitch this out. And then I like to weave between the pieces because it seems to be easier to catch the I usually use a ruler, but for the sakes of this, I'll,
Oh, that's how they come out so perfect.
yes.
Maybe on one of them you'll show us how to use a ruler.
Yeah. And then you see how these sides just have one side. You don't want to come
yeah.
in
Yeah, 'cause
and
that's the
move
background.
those. Right. And same with this. But the trick is finding, you got to watch where you're going so that you always get your,
Oh, okay.
see?
Perfect. So now I see that once you know what the confines of this are versus the other one, you're just really following, it's almost like it's a dance. You have a little routine and you follow it around.
Yeah, it is kind of like a dance. And once you get the hang of it, it's a lot of fun. So, and just to re-show what I did, as I like to go on the outside of the blocks, but as you can see, I missed a spot. And then I would normally come across like this and finish it, and then start again, and then you can see how we go back to that continuous curve pattern.
Now, normally when you'd be stitching this, but you did it freehand to be quick, you'd be using the ruler. And I would think the ruler, of course, would make it more accurate, but also would give you time to think.
Yes.
And that'd be good for you, but really good for a beginner too.
Right.
Because it gives you time to sort of like, where am I going? And you probably wouldn't have missed that.
That's right.
Plus we're on TV, which kind of makes everybody a little nervous. So what are we doing next?
I've got 2 more blocks that progress in difficulty.
Great.
And we can probably use the ruler on one of those.
Oh, good, so you can demonstrate it. Excellent. Well, let's advance the quilt and go on.
Great.
Okay. So here we have our new block, but first you have to have your zinger.
Oh.
Everybody who's on the show gets a zinger. There you go.
Great.
Hand a quilter, scissors. So this is our new block, and we're going to learn some new things.
Yeah, it's actually just more repetition on a more difficult block.
Okay.
And so it's just like anything else, you know, muscle repetition and that sort of thing. You want your brain to redo everything all the time. One of the things that we always told our kids, and what I tell my students is, you know, people say practice makes perfect, but it's actually perfect practice makes perfect performance.
Yeah.
And so you really do want to, you know, repeat things and try to make them as good as you can, so slow down. This is a great ruler for doing continuous curve, and I didn't do it on the last one for time's sake, but I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how to use the rulers on this. On these bigger curves, I use ovals instead of little round ones. On this, you want to look at, again, you see the color of the pattern, and you're going to, because you want to be able to move back to the outside, you generally always start on the outside. So on this one, I would start with a curve here and then go across and just keep on the outside of like this.
Yeah.
And then once you get back to this point where we had started here, you'll come over and go through the interior.
Filling it in.
Yeah. So why don't I start that with the rulers?
Okay, great. And you're using 2 different rulers because you've got different lengths.
Lengths to go through, yeah. And then a lot of times when you have 2 rulers, you're going to want to stop in between. And then you just place it. And as you can see, this makes a much nicer curve
Much nicer.
than what I was doing before with the other one.
Look how the quilting's really bringing it to life. It's so different now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like continuous curve. It adds a nice element. And there's different continuous curves as well. You don't have to just do this. There are wavy ones that you can do.
Okay.
And if you want to, explore that, that helps too. As you can see, I went around on the outside, and you want to catch the things in the corners. And I came back here.
So this was how you got there. You came,
Yeah.
and that's where you ended
Right.
up. So that's where you are now.
Exactly. And you can see there's one line left to go back to the outside, but we still need to finish the interior.
Oh.
So in this case, I would continuous curve around the square, and then I would come back here and do these in each one.
Oh, okay.
And so everything is a separate element.
And then you'll be back.
And then you
Begin
work all
again.
the way back to here, and then you get to come to the outside. Now I did this because on this one, I wanted the background to be done. But so you finish it here, and then you can just continuous curve all the way around on the outside.
Wonderful. And you haven't stopped. You haven't had to tie off or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and again, this is about path. So we're thinking path,
Yeah.
so that you can translate that to other blocks. Everything is a back and forth or a weave.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can get that down, then you can move it into other things like wreaths and stuff.
Yeah.
I have one more really difficult block
Oh, good.
that we can go through.
Let's do it. Deborah, there's so much more going on in this block. I look
Mm-hmm.
at it and go, I don't know, where do I start?
Exactly, and that's what most people will do. Whenever you're doing a piece block like this with continuous curve, you always want to start at the outside and go in, because most of the time, like that last block, that you can see that the star in this one is the anchoring element, and so then you want to work to the outside. So you want to do the inside, and then you want to come to the outside. So on this block, because there is so much going on, I would again start out here, but this one, because of the separate segments,
Yeah.
you have to catch those as you go around, rather than coming back out and just continuing going. So in this one, I would, and let me mention that a lot of times what I will do is I'll take the preview paper and place it over and use
Yes.
my marker.
Yes.
And try and figure out a thread path, and then you have that as a reference guide later.
You could even number it if you wanted
You
to.
could. So on this one, I would start here, and then I would catch everything in here by doing the curves.
Oh.
And just bring it back out, and see you're right here now. And then you would come around to your pinwheel, and this one is one that I would go ahead and weave. But you just kind of, and these are really fun to do because you get to go back and forth and kind of, it's that dancing feel,
Yes.
and then you just come back out and close it. And then you go on
You're
to the
ready
next
go.
one.
Yeah.
All the way around.
Perfect.
And then a lot of times what I do is when I come to a point where I know that the pinwheel is going to be, I would catch this inner pinwheel. So it can be done here or here
Anywhere.
or here.
Because you're going to come back to the same point.
Exactly. Then one of the other things that I might do on this one especially is, and if you don't mind, I'll grab a pen real quick.
Sure.
While I'm doing this inner part, I would go ahead and do my curves in here, but then I would probably sneak over here with a stitch in the ditch to this center, and then add some feathers in here.
Oh.
And if you feather out, then you can
Get
do
back.
that stitching in the ditch, and then you move. So as I go around, I would go ahead and add those feathers in.
That's great.
So that adds you another element.
Well, we're not going to stitch this out because you have so much more to show us. And I think we all got the idea of what is going on here and the path and everything. So we'll be back with more of Deborah and more continuous curves cures when Quilt It returns. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Welcome back to more of Quilted the Long Arm Quilting Show with Deborah Poole and her cures for continuous curves. Deborah, you showed us how to do some blocks, and now you're going to tackle sashing because it's the same thing. We're doing continuous, but how do we get there and get around?
Right. Just like in the blocks before, you can translate the continuous curve motion, basically, and mindset to doing your sashings. A lot of quilts have sashings, and so a lot of people think that when you go to do your designs in your sashing, you have to do this sashing, stop it here or start it here and stop it there, and then move to the next sashing and move to the next sashing. But many designs can be transferred to go like the continuous curve, and you will follow the sashing around. But if you only have a single thing, you get stuck. Well, you could. So when you have, what I'm going to do here is egg and dart, and it's a two-pathway design. So you go over and you come back, and those work really well. But when you go, you have to figure out how you're going to spread that across the quilt, and it's the same way as with the continuous curve. If you remember how we go over and then we come down and come back and go over.
Yeah, we didn't do each patch separately.
Exactly. So, and that's what we do with this. So we'll work up one side and across the top. And I am using an extended ruler base for this that I really like.
Because you're pressing down, so you have to have something under there. Yeah, you can't see it, but it's under there, believe me.
So
you wouldn't be able to do it without it.
No, and so much of my work is done with rulers that, you know, I live for rulers. I have a collection that I probably shouldn't have.
So that's half the design in both of those sashings.
Right, and now what we'll do is we'll come up here, and the nice thing is with a two-directional, you go back up, and then we'll move across the quilt to the next section.
Oh, you're really not finishing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I just use the seam to sneak across in the ditch.
All right.
And then we just go up this side now.
Okay, and then you'll go along here
Yep.
and keep doing the same thing.
Yep. Let me switch hands.
And so in the end, all of the sashing will look like this one.
Exactly.
Oh, pretty.
And then, so it's really, I try to design my stuff so that if I know I'm going to use egg and dart, my rulers will fit just right.
Yeah.
And I have a place to keep track. If you don't have a place to keep track like I've done with these, I go ahead and mark those.
Yeah, yeah.
So
you have points to aim for. Okay, great.
So do we want to, we can stitch clear across, or we can?
Nope, I think we got the idea
Okay.
because you have a lot more to show us.
Yeah.
What are we going to do next?
We're going to advance the quilt, and I'll show you how to do a one-directional pattern.
In a sashing.
Yes.
Oh, great, good. Let's
And
do
keep it continuous.
So, Deborah, now we're going to do another sashing. What design are you going to use?
I'm going to do just a simple curl.
Okay.
And I'm using that because it is one directional. So we did the egg and dart where you moved across the quilt
Yeah.
and then back across the quilt. But a lot of the sashing designs that we use are just one directional. And so it's hard to make those continuous across the whole quilt. So we're still going to use that same mentality of the weave with the continuous curve, and we'll just move our curls across the quilt, but it's going to look kind of funny because some of the sashings aren't going to be finished, and you're going to go, why isn't that filled in? Okay, so we're just going to do a simple curl. We move down.
Okay.
And this one's kind of like dancing too.
Yep.
Okay, I think that sets it so you can see how the design goes up and back and
Right.
over. And then you would stitch around the corner and up to the top.
Uh-huh.
And then that leaves these unstitched, and you're, thinking, what? So what happens is when you roll the quilt to your next section and you do this, you'll come up and you'll catch that, and then you'll go down and around.
Oh, because I'm going, well, wait a minute, this is empty, but it would have been stitched from your
Exactly.
previous row up there.
Exactly.
Oh.
So that's how
I
you
get it.
keep a single direction sashing going.
Great.
Now, if you want to, I like to anchor my blocks when I'm doing a sampler quilt like this with stitching in the ditch. And the same continuous curve pattern applies for this too. You just start in a corner and go across, and you just weave back and forth. But on this one, you get to go all the way around the corner and come back and then catch all those back up. And so you don't have to stop and start your stitching in the ditch in each block like a lot of women do.
Oh, wow. So you can do it continuous.
You can do it continuous.
And I would think that what I might do is, I'd probably draw this out, though it's really pretty simple, but still, just so you don't get messed up, and number it.
Oh, that's a good idea too.
Once I get going, until I've done it a lot, I don't think. I stop thinking and get messed up so I can see where I am. Yeah, but now that you've explained it, when you explained it at first, I didn't get it, but now I see it. It pieces together like a puzzle.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it does.
Oh, how simple. Yeah. And you didn't have to stop. You didn't have to tie off anything. We love that. Yes.
Yes, we do. We love not having to stop and tie off.
Yep. What are you going to show us in the next segment?
The next segment, I'm going to demonstrate two of the designs from my book
great.
they look extremely complicated, but they are all done with one start and one stop.
Really? And they fill the whole block. You've already
They
shown
do.
me what they are.
Yep.
They're really pretty.
Thank you.
Great. Well, we can't wait for that, but first we're going to join Marie, who is going to do a short take on long arm quilting. So stay with us for Marie. Marie, it's amazing how Deborah figures out this puzzle to make everything continuous and makes her quilts so curvy.
It's so much.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It's a lot. I'm like, I don't know. So I'm going from the curves, I'm going to straight lines.
Okay.
So straight lines you can do continuous as well.
Yep.
We have lots of tricks. Straight lines are really hard to do. Straight lines could be your hardest lines.
Oh, really?
You know,
I think it's easy.
you know, there's lots of tools and ways to do it, but they're not always the easiest, you know, to get that straight line. And straight lines are what are really popular right now,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so first of all, here's my best friend, the ruler.
Yes.
Right? I love the ruler. And so with a ruler, you know, you just have to know, you go slow.
Yep.
It's not fast, but it's accurate, right?
It's going to be perfect.
And it's going to be perfect,
So it's
right?
worth it.
Right. So we used to, and which she showed with her curved rulers.
That's right.
You know, that curved rulers are okay. That's a
They
good
are.
way to cheat,
They are.
don't you
They're-
think?
Yeah, and they're worth the time. I don't think it's cheating.
No, not cheating at all. We don't cheat. We don't cheat. Okay. Now, we have other options. So we have, these are just a channel lock. So
Yeah.
you can put these on your wheels of your machine, and your machine will just go perfectly straight. And you know, that's what we're looking for, is that perfectly straight. So there's that, and we have an electromagnetic channel lock that we have on our
really?
machines now that you can put on
Really?
any of our machines.
Oh
so
my gosh.
except for this sit-down machine, you're in like Flint with that one.
Wow.
So there's options, and I'm saving the best for last. So I'm going to show you some examples first.
Okay.
So here's just this cute little hedgehog. Is that not
It's
cute?
adorable.
So this is really popular right now, this kind of matchstick quilting. You can see that there's different spacing between the lines and different colored thread, kind of variegated, just going right over the top. Is that not just so?
And you know, it's straight line quilting, but there's still a lot going on because of the distance and the colors.
Right, right. And you just see the design itself.
It complements it.
right? Yeah. All right. Crosshatch, straight
straight
lines.
lines.
Yep. You can just use your rulers, or you know, we got tools, right?
That's right. Use them.
All right. Here, so we're talking big quilts.
Sampler,
that you
lots going
can,
on.
You know, you can just put straight lines all the way across there. Channel lock, ruler, whatever tools you have to make it easy.
Yep.
All right, there's that one.
Oh, I love the colors on
Check
this.
out this one.
Yeah.
So on this one, we have some lines going every direction, but they're straight. So
They
we're
are.
going vertical, we're going horizontal. This is where the channel lock, that electromagnetic channel lock, you're just this way. Yeah, it
Oh,
works
wow.
so
Wow.
great. Yeah, this quilt would be, what did she say, 130 hours maybe?
For that beautiful quilt. Well, that's, she told us already. They haven't seen that yet, but her show quilt, yes.
Oh,
Wait till you see that
yep,
in that
yep.
next segment. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's stunning.
Yes. And this is my favorite way to do it, is the Pro Stitcher. So all of these different straight lines you can do with the Pro Stitcher. Lots of different kinds of piano keys and
Wow. You
what
just
they do for
tell
your
it what to
quilt.
do and
Yeah,
it does
yeah,
it.
yes.
Wow.
So-
This is all about the texture. It's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So
Well, back to curves, the next thing that Deborah's going to do in the next segment is she's going to show us some beautiful, beautiful, you know, like something for like a wedding quilt, beautiful quilting within a block, with all sorts of pebbles and different things going on and feathers, but all in one continuous line.
yeah, I don't know how she does it. It makes my mind.
I know you can do it. I know how this girl quilts. You can do anything. So more with Deborah in our next segment. It's time for more Curing
Continuous
Fusion
confusion.
with Deborah Poole. All those C's.
I know.
Well, you started us from the basics with a very basic block of showing us how we can get around a whole block without stopping or starting, and you worked through to sashings. And now you're going to show us some really fancy stuff. I mean, that is gorgeous. You can do that without stopping and starting?
With one start and one stop.
One. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and I'm not going to actually stitch this one out, but I'll just explain to you how I achieve it. Whenever I'm doing these sort of things, I mark an outer circle so that I can have my feathers bump up to that rather than, and that way it keeps it nice and neat. I always start with the outer circle first and stitch around, and this design can actually be found, it's classic traditional feathered wreath, but it can be found in my book. The thread path for this can be found in my book.
Okay.
And I generally always start at the top, so I would make the circle with my template around, and then I would feather the outside.
I can see how that's one.
And then because I'm going to add the pearls, I would take just a little half curve so that I can create my second
Okay.
circle here.
And then you come back to that curve.
Then you come back to that, and then I would fill it with the pearls to do that. Now, if you don't, pearls take a long time.
Yeah.
And so if you don't want to do that, if you're using thread that's the same color as your background, I will just sneak across there with a straight line and nobody ever sees it.
Okay.
So that way you don't have to stop and start your thread.
Okay.
So just sneak that across. We've done our pearls, now we do our inside feathers.
Okay.
And then once you close those, you just use your feathers, and this is where you're going to have to learn some backtracking on these. I use classic heirloom feathers generally almost all of the time. And so you do have to stitch over the top of the feathers at some point. When you're doing your curved cross-hatching in an interior like this, you also have to do some of that. So I will just do one direction of cross-hatching,
Okay.
and then you get to the bottom, and then you just sneak it across and do the rest, and you've had one start and one stop.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow. That's a lot.
that's a lot. And they take about, at a wreath that size, to start and stop probably takes 15 to 20 minutes to
Okay.
stitch out.
Okay. That's not bad, actually.
No, it's not.
It would take a lot longer by hand.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then I am going to demonstrate part of this. This is the block that I call Foursquare that I designed for a wedding quilt that I did for someone.
Also appropriate.
And I think I'll just discuss the thread path as we go,
Okay.
but we're going to have to advance this in
Okay.
order to do that.
So you have this already drawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the other things that I do a lot of, so that some people feel like you have to mark each individual feather or each individual line.
Yeah.
And so what I call these are registration lines. And whenever I have an open block like this, I start out by making a plus and then making an X, because all of my rulers generally have that same thing to follow.
Oh, okay.
And then I decide from there, the rest of it. One of the things that I like to do, and these outer ones, this again is where I'm going to bump my feathers up to. One of the things that I like to do is, I don't know why, but I can never get my little teardrops in the corners to be the same size. It doesn't matter what I do. So I always draw in my teardrops. Now this design, believe it or not, is totally continuous, and I'll start that for you now. For this design, I stitched the outer portion first. And a lot of times I will stop my machine to re-navigate the rulers. That's not cheating or anything. And I will mention that when you're using rulers, you really want to try and keep your hand with where the needle bar is, because a lot of times if the ruler plate isn't very big, you can get off of that and your ruler can tip.
Oh, okay.
And so if your hand's clear back here, you have that chance, and you don't want to do that, because that's where you end up breaking your needle on your ruler and throwing your timing out and all that sort of stuff.
You won't be happy.
No, you will not.
Better to take a little stop, even if you have to slow down and
Exactly.
readjust.
Oops, I didn't cut that off.
Oh, yeah. So now you're back to the beginning.
Okay, we're back to the beginning. Now, this is where, this design is stitched out in quadrants to begin with. So what we will do is we will continue we will stitch this next quadrant. And again, we go back to the continuous curve mentality where we weave back and forth. So this first one, you want to move this down and get your distance away. Go down a little bit more. There we go. And what we're doing is creating a channel for those pearls. And see how my hand follows with that?
Yes.
Okay. Now this is where our weave back and forth comes in. So we'll make some pearls, and we'll see how well I do on an unfamiliar machine, right?
You're doing well. Yeah, different models have different feel, don't
Yes, they do. And even machines within the same brand are different. So you just get used to your own and now, where do you think I'm going to go from here?
Okay, I'm going to throw out two different things.
Okay.
Either you're going to do the feathers down here so you finish that, or you're going to go over here and do
Okay.
the next
I
one.
am actually going to go down here, and I'm going to make this.
Oh, from there.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I make half of the feathers.
Oh. Yeah, I can see how you want to start the feathers from the middle. It'd be hard to start from the end and have them come out right symmetrically.
Okay. Then we start making our pearls again.
Oh, brilliant. Now I get it.
So again, it goes back to the continuous curve, weaving back and forth, up and down, back and forth.
Getting that last one in.
And then we go down here. And you can use any feather that you like. You know, there are open-ended, you know, curled feathers and stuff. So you know, you don't have to do heirloom feathers. Now this is the only truly tricky part about this design, and I go ahead and get my ruler back in here and use it to follow that curve back up. And if it's not exact, it's not a big deal, because what you're going to do now is do your top feathers.
Oh.
And then you can see that I'm using that blue line down this blue line as my
Yes.
registration line
Yep.
for the, and then you'll have to just slide your way back up there. To finish that other side.
Wow, it's looking pretty.
Yeah, there you go. And then when we wouldn't cut the thread generally, but we would go start over again with our channel making. So we would make our channel across. We'd purl back, our purl back, do your...
Are we knitting?
Yeah, that's right. And then after you get that, you would finish with your feathers in the center and then add your cross hatching like I showed you on the feathered wreath.
Okay, okay. So when you were at this one, or so at any point when you're here, is that where you would then start? Or from where would you do it?
The continuous curve.
The cross hatching?
Yeah, the cross hatching, I'm sorry. Yeah, you just follow those feathers
Oh, you
up
go back. So where you
and-
end, you go back. Okay.
and you'd start on the edge and go all the way across.
Okay.
So
Great. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. This is, it's amazing. Now, we have some beautiful quilts behind us, especially this one. This one really gets
Yeah.
me. And did you use this technique in this quilt?
I did. The border on that quilt, each border took about 30 hours to complete, but I could have, if I'd started and stopped in one 30-hour segment, could have done it with one stop and one start.
Wow. So tell me more about it. Like, what other considerations do you have? Like, that's a show quilt, right?
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
that's not an
quite a
everyday.
few. Yeah, it's taken quite a few prizes at national shows. One of the things that I wanted to do with it was make the Dresden plates show up, and so I used a double batting.
Oh, did you?
Yes, so I like to use an 80-20 combo with wool.
Okay.
That gives it that definition. And then I actually, when I did the blocking on this, even though I had pre-washed the red fabric, it bled out into the red.
It did it really?
It really did.
What did you do to cure it?
I put it in a hot water bath with color catchers and stuff, and so that's why it's a little more wrinkly, I guess, than it would have been, because it shrunk the wool batting. But I actually like the effect. It gave it kind of more of the antique look, and the plates themselves are vintage fabric, so it it worked out for it.
It's beautiful.
So.
Beautiful. Do you ever use just wool? Because I know I've heard a lot of people use the 80-20 and then the wool on top. So.
Yeah, I really like the wool for a lot of reasons, because it breathes, and so it's warm in the winter and it's cool in the summer, and so I do actually put it in baby quilts and things.
Okay.
So it's a nice natural fiber for that.
Yeah, because there's always a trade-off about it. It is more expensive.
It is.
And so there's always this trade-off, and you have to think it through. Hobbs does have a great chart on their website, which helps you, because it goes across the top with all the different attributes of all of them, so you can really, and then weigh that with price, but you can really decide what's the best batting for what
And
you
I
want to
was
do.
just introduced to some white Hobbs wool, which I'm pretty excited about, because I think my next show quilt's going to be white.
Great.
I think it's going to be a white whole cloth, and so that's exciting, because I can get the definition that I want with the white wool without the maybe tint of the cream underneath it. So I'm excited about checking that out.
That's great. I think that's probably why they created it, because they knew there was
Probably,
a need there.
yes,
Yeah,
I think so.
Well, where can we find out more about you and your book?
You can find my book on Amazon or Shop Martingale.
That's a publisher.
That's a publisher. I'm not hooked in on too much media.
Oh, really?
No, I have a Facebook page, but it's not one that's for work.
But you do teach, right?
Yeah, I'm teaching more and more, but it's all. I don't mind giving out my email if people want to get my email.
We'll put that in there. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Great.
This has been a lot of fun. I love how we progressed from the beginning, and now we can see how even things that look very complicated really aren't all that bad.
No,
We
they're
can
not
do
that
'em.
bad. You can
Yeah.
do them.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Deborah.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Quilt at the Long Arm Quilting Show. We'll have more fun on our next episode.